Thank you very much for coming tonight. We certainly appreciate those joining us in person and those online. Make sure they can see me. So I am Maggie Stoltz. I'm the principal at Lafayette High School. And it is my honor and privilege to welcome you to your senior year. Don't blink, parents. Hold your breath. It'll happen really fast. But we want to make this as exciting as possible. So we got some great information that we're going to share with you today. And for those of you online, we want to make sure that we answer your questions. After this meeting, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for a individual one-on-one conference with your senior assigned counselors. I encourage you to do that. It's a lot more FaceTime with them. We can do it over the phone virtual as well. So I will turn it over to Mr. Reynolds.
All right, I won't be able to stand in front of the podium all the time, but I'm going to get the show started. Thanks for coming tonight. Like she said, this is a bunch of important information, but it just sort of helps to kind of add some clarity to a lot of the senior related things. But like she said, this is a group presentation, so we definitely encourage you to have your one-on-one meeting to talk about that individualized plan, okay? All right, so meeting your counselors, that's a very important step. We've got Ms. Black, Ms. Vowell, Mr. Reynolds, Ms. Gregory, and Ms. Kelly. In a perfect non-corona world, they would be here to wave and greet you, but they're monitoring the Google Meets and various other roles to make tonight successful. So I still wanted you to see their names. At the end, I'm going to give you more information about their contact information, okay? All right, so everybody's in this room because they are close to graduating. So that's very important, all right? That's the first step of the senior journey. So you've got to earn 26 credits. This is just a friendly reminder. We talked about these since we were in middle school. Of those 26, though, you've got to have the magic 4 for English, 4 math, 4 science, and 4 social studies. Those will never go away. Then you've got to have health and PE. That's a state of Georgia requirement. The only way that you want health and PE is if you have 3 credits of JROTC. There's a note there that you've got to have 3 pathway courses. That's 3 pathway courses, not 3 entire pathways. So 1 pathway equals 3 pathway courses. And then there's a note there that says 6 electives. That's just because if I add everything else up, in order to get to 26, I've got to have about 6 more, okay? That number fluctuates because now so many students are coming to Lafayette High School already earning credits and things like that, but 26 is a bare minimum, okay? But I tell students, we've got 8 semesters in high school times 4, that's 32, so that makes 26 much less of an intimidating number, okay? There's a note there, in order to be an honor graduate. I know several of you are very interested in that. That means that you have maintained a 90 or above average of all classes taken by the end of the first semester senior year, okay? That's board policy, there's nothing we can do about that. We do sometimes often wish that it was extended just a little bit further on into spring break, but it is what it is. So after Christmas, your honor graduate status is locked in, okay? I think most of you already knew that, but that is important for parents to hear that as well. To be part of the top 10% or valedictorian or salutatorian, board policy states that you have to take the most rigorous courses in 3 of the 4 content areas. I'm going to email that as a separate message because sometimes people forget that, but I do think that's important to yet again remind you of that fact. Even though we remind you every year, I still think that's important because that's board policy. It's non-negotiable. All right, so everybody has one of these. I believe it's yellow. This is your LHS transcript. We're going to talk about 2 different transcripts tonight. We're going to talk about an LHS transcript. That's just a running list of all the classes that you've taken with the grades. And we're also going to talk about a HOPE transcript. If any of you were able to come to the presentation in February, we have Ben Meadows with us. He's our Georgia Student Finance Commission representative, and he talked all about HOPE and financial aid. So I think it would probably be a good idea if I went back to that recording and sent that out following this, because it's a wealth of information just only about financial aid. But we'll visit some of that information, but I still wanted you to have some of the other information as well. This transcript, though, it tells us lots of information down here, okay? You'll notice it has a total credit number. This is the total number of credits that you currently have, okay? As we say this, though, please keep in mind that this was printed for you yesterday. So that locked in May. So that's only after 6 semesters, not after 7 and certainly not after 8. So don't let this number scare you. It either tells you where you are, which is great, or it tells you where you are to prompt you to do some things about that number. It gives you a rank. Notice it says the word unofficial. We don't publish our senior ranking for the graduating classes until the end of January, because there are often times we have to hand calculate that, and sometimes even more than once, because it could possibly come down to the 1,000th of a point, and we don't want to mess anyone up there. It gives you two GPAs. It gives you a cumulative GPA and a cumulative percent average. We do like for both of those to be on the transcript, because scholarships, colleges, and various things will ask for either one of those or both of those, and it's interchangeably used. I've seen both ask for either one. So I think that's just good information. It's good information for you to have. Tomorrow, when I send this presentation out, I will send the number, the magic number, that will be our top 10% for this graduating class. It's based on cohort. Even though we start with a certain number in the 9th grade, we don't always end up with that number 4 years later, but that's still our cohort number. So that's the number we use for top 10%, okay? All right, so now we'll dive in. This is perhaps why many of you came. Options for after high school. We talk about the 3 E's a lot here at Lafayette High School: enrollment, enlistment, and employment. One is no better than the other, we know that. But for either one, we want you to have a solid plan. So that's what some of these things are: 4-year college, 2-year college for an associate's degree, or start at a 2-year college to transfer to a 4-year college. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but that has some benefits that you all get to discuss as a family. We've got GNTC right up the road in Rock Spring. Lots of our students will start at GNTC knowing very good and well that they may transfer somewhere else. The key is to, of course, take classes that will transfer non-negotiable. Technical college, special purpose training, military branch of service. So you have to ask yourself, which is appropriate for my student? It's not a one-size-fits-all, and we have stopped pretending like it is, which is really great. College selection process. So we're talking now about that enrollment key. So in order to start selecting your college, all right, that's an intimidating process. But the very first thing you've got to do is ask yourself some questions. What do you want to do with your life? Obviously, that's important. Okay? That's going to narrow some things down to a college major. I will tell you, I hope you don't get too stuck on that, because many people have a different major when they graduate college. Certainly different than when they started college, okay? But you don't want to spend too much time changing that around, because the entire program may be different. In-state versus out-of-state. We'll talk more about that in just a minute, as Georgia continues to release lots of changes to the process. Private versus public, that's basically a money thing, no way to sugarcoat that. Private colleges are much more expensive than public colleges, we definitely know that. Housing opportunities. Do you want your student to go to a campus where they will live on campus with housing and a food plan? And then, of course, the size of school. We're a fairly decent sized school for Northwest Georgia. We're sitting at about 1125. We're proud of that number, but that could possibly just dictate what size college you want to go to as well. How to research schools. We're feeding a lot of this information into PIP crews. PIP crews every day, 20 minutes after first period, where we just talk a lot about college and career readiness. But we're going to talk a lot about Georgia Futures in PIP crew. That's our topic for September. Actually, Georgia Futures has tons of tools that you can use, and I want you all to become familiar with that. If students don't know their account information, they can stop by guidance, and we will look that up. Sometimes it will be an email address that you created in like the 6th or 7th grade, so don't get too caught up in that. Worst case scenario, you can just create another account. There's no harm in bound to do that. It will still help you get connected. Nationwide, you've of course got collegeboard.com. And then we always want to look at specific schools' websites. For example, if I'm interested in West Georgia and Carrollton, that's great. We're going to go directly to West Georgia's website and see what all they have to offer through their admissions department's website. All right. Of course, visit the campus. I should have taken this off, but I didn't. But we're hoping that in January, life looks much more different than it does today. Each senior has 2 visitation days that he or she can take any time during the senior year. Students must bring confirmation from campus and turn it into the attendance office for the absence to be counted as a field trip. Guys, this just looks weird. I'm sorry, I should have taken that off, but I will say that some admissions offices are still allowing people to come onto their campus for visits. Right? That's a family decision. All right, if they're letting you come and you feel willing to do that, this policy still stands that that would count as a school day for you as long as you bring the appropriate documentation. Unfortunately, recruiters can't come on campus right now. They just can't. However, what we're hoping to do is sort of bring our students virtually to them. I know we've got UGA on September 11th planned where they're kind of Skyping in. It's not as personal. I don't love it as much, but it's certainly better than nothing. Okay? As we get wind of that sort of thing, we're going to send all of that out to remind you of the classroom, which will be the last thing. Keep your options open. All right? Each year we have 3, 4, sometimes 7 or 8 students accepted into the University of Georgia. And that is outstanding. We love that, but we don't want anyone to put all of their eggs in one basket. Is that right? So we don't want you to do that because we want you to have 3 types of schools that you have on your list. We've got dream schools. You may not get in them, but it's your top choice. Not everybody's going to UGA, and that's okay. All right, they kind of tighten lots of things because lots of people want to go to UGA. You've got a reach school. The student stands a good chance of admission. You feel pretty comfortable about that. And then, of course, you've got a safety school. It's a backup plan in case they need it. All right? Again, we've got GMTC very close. We've also got Dalton College very close. I don't need that to say that Dalton College should only be a safety school. If you choose to do your entire bachelor's degree at Dalton State, that's also very fine as well. How to apply to college. Again, the counselors are readily available to help you with any step in this process, but most colleges in Georgia want you to log on to Georgia Futures and you just dive right into the application. There are some colleges, I only know 2, that will still take a paper application. All right, GMTC still rocking out the paper application, and that's okay. But most places certainly want you to apply. Deadlines are critical. I say that, we talk about deadlines a lot in high school. Deadlines may not be as firm in high school as they will be for the admissions office in college. Okay, that's very, very important. All right, and I don't need to say that as a number. Y'all get what I'm saying. The goal there is to apply by Thanksgiving. I think that's a reasonable goal for everybody. Apply to at least one place by Thanksgiving, whether that's your dream school, your reach school, or your safety school. Transcripts, hopefully by now everyone knows how you get a transcript from that high school. If you don't, Ms. Holly Kelly is our registrar, and she is our records guru. Anytime a student needs a transcript, you just go by there or you send an email directly to Ms. Kelly. A lot of times what will happen is the counselor will be in the hallway and they'll just say in passing, hey, send my transcript to Georgia Southern. Well, that's great, and most of the time we will, but there's no telling where we're headed, and we may forget, but I wanted in writing that you're asking that directly from Ms. Kelly. Another reason for that is because she keeps very good records of every record that she sends, okay? So she's going to write down the date and the destination of every transcript that she sends. Sometimes it's not great, but sometimes an admissions office may dispute that that transcript was sent. And Ms. Kelly will be able to take down that record and will be able to show that. Test scores. Here's a note about test scores. This is about my 7th year here, I think, and I'm seeing this perhaps as the biggest change. Your test scores have to come directly from ACT or SAT now. Both of those testing organizations used to send us a label with your test scores that we could put on your transcript. And so then when we send your transcript, both your score and your transcript will be there. We're checking off both. Now they want the ACT and the SAT to come directly from those organizations. Okay? When you sign up to take the ACT, go ahead and put any college that you're even remotely thinking about on that list. You can put it, okay? That's a lot of schools. If you don't, and you log back into ACT, they're going to charge you $13 to send that score. So we always say, if you're even thinking about even pulling into a campus, then put that college on there, because there's no harm, no foul for that either, okay? Admissions departments revisit your application every time they get a document regarding your process, okay? I can't stress that enough. That includes GMTC and Dalton. GMTC has now started that requirement, okay? So our graduates in June, they're kind of scrounging, even though we come up with this information, they're panicking because GMTC doesn't have their information. You may want to just come and say, hey, will you send my scores? But that has to come directly from ACT. And that's not a lengthy process, it's just something outside of us here. Now, we'll run ACT and SAT, won't talk to us as counselors. So as you create those accounts, I'm getting ahead of myself, as you create those accounts, make sure that you write the login information down on your phone or on the refrigerator or somewhere else, okay? There are two types of admissions tests, SAT and ACT. I've listed the differences there. I'll post this presentation when we post the video. We talk about the ACT the most just because it's offered here and it's offered locally. The SAT is offered around here, but not necessarily close, okay? SAT is also only those three sections where the ACT has much more of a well-rounded scope of what the student is able to do. You're looking at a score each section for the SATs worth 200 to 800 points, and then 1 through 36 for the ACT, with 36 being a perfect score, which we have a graduating senior who has a 36 on the math section, so that's outstanding. There's a note there about the star student. Each year we announce our star student. That's the senior with the highest SAT score. And November is the last test date that is considered for that, okay? Technical college may only require the Accuplacer test. A lot of our students who go to GNTC, they never take the ACT or SAT, and that's totally fine. Technical schools will take the Accuplacer test. We offer the Accuplacer here, but GNTC has started saying that that is only an option for dual enrollment students. It's no longer an option for people who are going to GNTC as the post-secondary option. But they have a testing center there, and you just call them up and you make an appointment. Okay? So that part's simple. Anytime you're taking the SAT or ACT, the code for Lafayette High School is 111755. Again, we have sent that out tons of times, but I want you to know that because I don't remember what the decision there. I think they do love space beta or maybe different. I'm not really sure, but you have to look it up by the code. If you just type in Lafayette, it's very picky. Like the F has to be capital. I don't know which way it is. I'll look and okay. SAT dates are here, and then ACT dates are here. We've got some papers, some printouts that I hope you all grab on your way in. If you didn't, you can get them on your way out. That has this. I'm certainly not going to ask that you out this and we're sending it out. Now, here's a note about this. Okay. Yesterday morning, Georgia, the University System of Georgia, released information saying that to go to a college within the University System of Georgia, that's any public college in Georgia, public, notice I said public, is waiving the testing requirement. That's pretty great. That's great. I don't know what that's going to look like outside of that. I don't know if they're going to add other components to the application. They've not released that information yet. I think that September 11th meeting with UGA will be telling as they sort of set the standard for that. But I will say, though, we'll talk about this in just a minute, the Zell Miller Scholarship, which has a testing requirement component, has not said that. They are still requiring you for that. So if you're someone who's close to being a Zell Miller Scholar, we do certainly still encourage you to do the ACT. Now, it's also only for Georgia. So we've got UTC in our backyard. I'm not seeing what Tennessee's doing, but I can look that up. If you want to go outside of Georgia or even outside of our region, we don't have that same guarantee that the testing score is being waived. Okay? All right. Now we're talking about financial aid. We love Hope in Georgia. Zell Miller Scholarship, that is 100% of your tuition to a public school in Georgia. That requires a 3.7 GPA in your academic classes. We'll talk about the Hope GPA in just a second. 1,200 on the math and reading portions of the SAT, or a 26 composite score on the ACT test in a single test administration. And then, of course, if you're valedictorian or salutatorian, you're automatically a Zell Miller Scholar. But of course, pay your rarely with that person not also having the above criteria. Hope Scholarship. We've got Hope Scholarship and then the Zell Miller Scholarship. The difference in the two is that a Hope Scholarship earner still has the 3.0 GPA. They just didn't quite get the 3.7, or they may not have the 26 on the ACT. I've seen some students, oftentimes several students, who may have one or the other, and it's an all or nothing kind of thing. Okay? Hope Scholarship, though, is still great. You're looking at about 80% of your tuition being covered. And that's, of course, certainly better than zero. We've also got the Hope Grant. Lots of our students use those, especially with GMTC. There's no GPA requirement there, and it's designed for technical college certificate and diploma. Right? Cosmetology is a big one right now that they're recruiting for. All right. So, again, we mentioned that you've got two papers when you came in. The first one is your LHS transcript. The second one is your Hope transcript. And you'll notice, guys, that the two GPAs may very well be different. I would imagine they probably are different. And the difference is that an LHS transcript, guys, counts everything. Absolutely every class that you've ever taken. Perhaps even since 8th grade, if it was a high school grade. Hope, on the other hand, is only counting academic classes, okay? Only academic. So if you take maybe band or PE or waves, there's not a thing wrong with that. It's just not counting towards your Hope GPA. So this is a person's Hope transcript. You'll see there you have the Hope GPA right there, 3.5666. It's not a 3.7. Hope doesn't round. I should have started with that. A 2.99 is not a 3.0 in the state of Georgia size, okay? That's important to know. We'll talk about what these R's mean. R means rigor, okay? The Hope Scholarship requires 4 rigor classes. We don't talk a lot about that because if you're a student who is college bound, you're automatically going to get chemistry and Spanish 2 or German 2. And then you'll also have your 3rd math and your 4th math. Those are just built into your programs. Those are 4 rigor classes right there. And I say rigor in the eyes of the Hope Scholarship, okay? I don't mean that they have to be honors courses, okay? So this person does have their 4 honors classes, and they have their 3.56. And this is kind of telling you how that number is arrived at, okay? They have 15 credits, they have 53.5. So they're saying 53.5 divided by 15. It says that. That's math, guys. We can talk about that at your individual senior meeting, but I don't want you to think that that 3.56 is an arbitrary number, okay? There's an actual process there. But you'll notice, guys, not all of these classes have a 1 assignment. Like the student with early childhood ed, I'm sure they had a great time in there, but it just didn't count towards their Hope GPA, okay? But it would have calculated into their LHS GPA, okay? That's the difference there. Again, we'll talk about these numbers individually in your individual meeting. So that's why we strongly encourage to do that, because the numbers just fluctuate so much from student to student. All right. This is talking about those rigor courses. You need 4 of those. The rigor requirement is automatically satisfied within the 4-year college-bound curriculum for all of that high school students. Okay. We'll see. Algebra 2, accelerated pre-calculus, AMD. We need to change this because now it's just college readiness within Spanish 2 and in chemistry. Those are all built in. And then, of course, any dual enrollment class or advanced placement class counts as a regular requirement as well. How to apply for Hope. Hope is not finalized until after graduation. We remind students of that because they just hear 7 semesters for undergraduates, so they think anything after Christmas doesn't count. But it does for Hope, so that's very, very important. Hope is never finished calculating until students walk across the graduation field. Okay? So a Hope progress report has been provided for all of you. Students can also check their current Hope GPA on georgiafutures.org. So that's another reason to go ahead and log on to that. It's a number that is changed each semester. And you can apply for Hope by completing FAFSA, free and federal student aid. When you do your FAFSA application, you have done your Hope application. We say that a lot, but certainly in the spring. But if you're a student who has no intentions of ever completing your FAFSA application, that's okay. But you still would want to complete the application that's on Georgia Futures so that you can get Hope. I know a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to get aid. Why am I even going to bother with the FAFSA app? That's okay. Just make sure you apply at least for the Hope. Because they won't give it to you if you don't apply. All right, FAFSA, free application for student aid. If you're attending any type of post-secondary school, you are strongly encouraged to complete the FAFSA form. Sometimes people are surprised, frankly. They're surprised that their income may not fall at the exact level that they thought it did because of various factors. They know how much money they make, but they may not know that a certain number of kids may put them under or over a threshold. So certainly apply for that. I should have changed this, guys. Sorry, but they're available every year after October 1st. for this year, obviously, it's October 1st of 2020 and not 2019. But you use the income taxes from the previous year. So this year you're using your 2019 income taxes, okay? That's an important note. It's FAFSA.ed.gov. Never go to FAFSA.com. Never pay for FAFSA. There's a note there, use only these websites, never pay for FAFSA. It's right in the name, guys. Free application for student aid. If you're paying for FAFSA, I don't know what you're paying for, okay? They will do it, but don't do it, okay? You'll need to complete the FAFSA each year that you attend a post-secondary institution. Other sources of money. Scholarships are one of the main reasons that we started that Google Classroom page for seniors. I know in March, it's like heavy-duty scholarship season, and they were like, hey, just kidding, we're not coming to school anymore this year. And so we all kind of panicked. How in the world will I ever get the scholarship stuff out? So I was reminded, message, Facebook, we were doing call-outs. I had offered to come sit in the horseshoe loop a couple of Fridays. It was very important that the students get the scholarship information. That's money. And if there are funds available, we want to get them to you, because we don't get to keep them. Local scholarships. Look on the LHS website. Listen for announcements. Scholarship applications are always located in the guidance office. But technology has added things like, of course, Facebook, Instagram, Google Classroom. There's the email listserv that we'll talk about. I don't know if you've been getting messages from that LHS Senior 2021 at walkerschools.org. If you're not a member of that, we'll talk about how to do that in just a moment. But that's local scholarships. Fastweb.com is going to talk about national scholarships. That's basically every scholarship in the entire country. But I always remind students, don't just kind of shrug at those. You never know. Best Buy is an example. There are Best Buy stores all over the world. But I think 3 years ago, we had a student get a Best Buy scholarship. I thought that was kind of cool. It connected them to the Best Buy in Chattanooga, and then bam, they got a $1,000 scholarship. So you never really know, but I always tell students, you certainly won't know if you don't apply for it. Okay? And then findaid.org. The last one says college websites. Every institution offers their own institutional scholarship. And even Dalton has the presidential scholarship, which is pretty good. Check for tuition. Their deadline is, I believe, November. So once you've locked down the school, you've been accepted, you're like, this is where I'm going, I'm excited about it. Start looking at that college's website for the financial aid that they can offer to their students, because there are always sources of money. College athletics. There are two governing bodies of that. You've got NAI, that's technically National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. There's no national clearinghouse, and there are simple requirements for that. NCAA, on the other hand, is not quite as simple, but we're here to help our student athletes if that's something they are willing and interested in doing. It requires potential Division I and II student athletes to register at a clearinghouse, okay? And I don't think that's new information for our student athletes. Coaches are very good at plugging in with our athletes and getting them connected with this information. Of course, the guidance counselors are here every step of the way also. The 3 E's, enrollment, enlistment, and employment. I wanted this slide to be up there because I have just talked a lot about enrollment. Honestly, enrollment only. But that's not the only reason the counselor is here. If you know for a fact you have zero intention of ever going to 4-year college or even 2-year college, I don't want you to think we're not willing to talk to you about what your plan is for after high school. There are students who go directly into the workforce and they do well for themselves because they've plugged in. Maybe they've gotten some training or some certificate things that have projected them to do very well in that career. Okay? Join us on the web. All right. LHS.walkerschools.org is still our school website. I know they're revamping things, but I don't think the address is going to change. Bookmark it, and that's always where we're going to put scholarship information. About midway down on the school website, it says LHS Guidance Department. Bookmark that one also, because as soon as I get a scholarship, I'm going to just put it right on that website. Again, there's no reason for us to hold on to it. Like us on Facebook. Ms. Schultz does a really good job of running that LHS grads. Yes, we can. We've got our Rambler Counselors page as well. And we pretty much kind of take each other's lead on that. If she shares something, I'll share it, and vice versa. She's really good at just promoting the overall campus-wide happenings of the school. All right? That is a very projected picture of all of us. But I wanted you to see that we now feel fairly active now. We've got Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So connect to all of them. All right, join the Remind group. It used to, I could just blast one big code up here, but Remind got a little too big, and they said now you can only have 150 students in a classroom. So that didn't work for a whole grade level. So we're having to divide that up now based on alphabet. So A through G code is LHS 21. A through G. So one point of number, but I forgot to change that. I'll fix that in just a moment. As always, you'll text the code to 81010. Senior information packet. We are living by QR codes this year, but if you don't operate by that, that's totally fine. If you go to tinyurl.com/LHS21 packet, that's a lot of the information, much of which I share tonight. It's a lot of financial aid information, college information, just how to have a successful year information. It's just very broad. I didn't pick one for everybody because it's like 18 pages and it's in color. So, and plus you want it to be digital anyway. Okay? So look at that. It's got our information about our class officers, guidance counselor, information, some senior dates and things like that. So definitely look at that. I'll post this once we post our presentation as well. Final thoughts. The most important thing you can do this entire semester is to schedule an individual senior meeting with your assigned alphabet counselor. I want to let you take note there that we have narrowed it down specifically seniors are Ms. Black and myself, Mr. Reynolds. Ms. Gregory is still here and she is still a patron saint of guidance. We love her very much, but she doesn't have an assigned alphabet just because she's not here every day and she's working on so many other different things. Ms. Val is still an important part of our guidance team. She's got some medical stuff going on, so she's not here every day either. So that's why me and Ms. Black, we said, you know what, let's just kind of split up our seniors that way. Every single senior at LHS has their go-to person, regardless of the day of the week. Okay? So take note of that. You know how to reach us, I hope, by now. You can email us anytime or just call the main office, and that way you'll take a message for us or they'll dispatch you out to our office. We were going to do a QR code for you to schedule a meeting through a form, and we thought, you know what? Everybody's lives are different. Just email us or call us, and we'll get you on the docket. We definitely want this to happen. We'll kind of start hunting some of our students down if they haven't scheduled them because we know that they have lots of things to talk about. I feel like I went through that pretty quickly. Sorry about that if I went too fast. But I want you to schedule those meetings. I want you to stay connected with us. And I want you to ask any question that you have at all. Okay? You can ask the question now. You can email it. You can stay after the meeting to ask us individually. If you're joining us live, we appreciate it, and you can ask your questions in the text box because counselors are monitoring that as well. And that is the world we're living in right now, guys. I appreciate everybody coming. This was actually a very good turnout. That's exciting. Okay? So at this time, we'll go ahead and release you. If you have any questions, stick around, and we're here for you. Thank you.